Hello there. This is going to be a quick research session where I show you how to use a tool. Now, it is a premium tool. It does have a monthly subscription, but I like it because it gives me an advantage that I think that you'll really get and understand when you see how I go through it. So what I have here is I have the K-Lytics Elite data for October of 2017. This is the latest one that has come out, and I'm going to show you how to go through it. But before I do that, I'm going to jump over just really quick and excuse me, show you what it looks like to go through it when you're on the inside of K-Lytics. So K-Lytics, like I said, is a premium service. It is used by some of the some of the more serious indie authors, as well as a lot of publishing houses. So this is information that is used by your competitors and by those in the publishing industry who are really serious about understanding how to do the micro level of research when it comes to all things Amazon. So I'm on the inside of this K-Lytics, and I'll drop a link for you. It is an affiliate link if you do want to try it out or go through it. And I'm going to show you what you get. So I have the elite level, and the elite level gives you as much data as the service is able to get. So it's kind of like the top level. You can get a premium, but you won't get all of the different levels. And when I go in, I'm going to show you a little bit of what I'm talking about with regards to the premium versus the elite level. And it's just simply being able to go down another level into what Amazon has going on. All right, so this is how it's broken down. You can see all of this. The front page, the sales page, does a wonderful job of showing you all the different things you get. One of the things I do want to say is that I love the custom research. Each month they come up with different research. As a member, you get access to all of the custom research. You can buy it a la carte, but I would prefer, if you're going to do it, do it the right way and get all these different things. So what I have here is, excuse me, for the custom research, I'm going to just show you really fast, and then we're going to jump right in. Let me close that down. We're going to jump right in to how I do the research. Okay, so these are some custom reports. So this one is the overall romance, and this is the October edition, and you can download it, and I've pulled that up so that you can see what that looks like. So when you are able to get into that, you get the PDF report, you get the videos, you get bonus content, and it's right here. And so you can play it right there. And let's see here. Then they've got the bonus report of the top 10 100 snapshot for romance, which is really good. And I like the fact that Alex and his team keeps these things up to date, so you always know which ones you have. So if I wanted to, I could do a year-over-year comparison from the romance report that was done last year. So you have video too. In this one, this is the top 100 snapshot for Google Trends analysis right there. And of course, then you've got, some other things there. But you're able to download this. You're able to watch the presentation. And so it's really good. Some of the others that I picked, because you can write short in most of these, and these are, some pretty good areas to write in. Cozy mystery. So he does have, for K-Lytics, there is a cozy mystery deep dive where you get the market report and you get the best themes and characters report. In those reports, you also get the videos. Let me scroll down real fast so you can see it. Here is, it's 22 minutes, 42 seconds of him just giving you great research on the cozy mystery market. And this has been updated in September. So it's very recent. And so the numbers are right on point. Here's part 2 of it with the best themes and characters. You get a bonus report, the Cozy Mystery Witches, and you can download that report. And what I like about this, again, he's going to show you year over year. And you guys, this is what I want to make sure that you understand when you're doing data. And I have a training on the basics, the foundations of understanding marketing as an MBA in finance and undergrad in marketing, and having worked in corporate America as a financial strategist. I want you to know as a creator, you don't have to shy away from numbers, but you do. I mean, and you want to understand that they are simply another way of telling a story, and the more information you can have, like year over year, is going to give you a truer picture of what you're dealing with. Okay, so he's got African American, mystery, thriller, suspense, paranormal. I know I'm running through these, but I need to get you guys over to the nitty gritty of the big report. There's even urban fantasy. I'm going to hop back over here so that you can see all these different reports. So in October, we have the overall romance. In September, he put out the teen and young adult. September, he also put out cozy mystery. July was African American romance. June was thriller, mystery, thriller, suspense, or MTS, as we like to call it for short. June was paranormal romance. May was historical romance, also urban fantasy and science fiction and fantasy. And then he had gothic romance in April. In February, lit RPG, that's literary role playing game. It's a hot genre. It is one that I am going to touch on a little bit in our training on how to write short, fast, and profitable. And then you also have clean romance. Now, the one that I really encourage, if you don't get anything else, if you don't want to get any of this other stuff, I would encourage you, if you're wanting to write profitably and fast, you want to get the short reads and short stories 2017 data. It's 9 videos. It's a deep dive helping you to understand the difference between how you can get into the short reads category for Amazon as opposed to short stories and what that entails, and the numbers, the top 3 genres that they work in. I'll just go on and tell you that. I don't think Alex would have a problem with that. The top 3, as you would have guessed, would be romance, mystery, thriller, and suspense, and science fiction. Those are the top 3. Okay, and like you can see, you can do cozy mystery from 2006, year over year comparison, sports romance, and the list goes on and on. Okay, so now that I've done that and shown you the layout of what it looks like when you get in here, here are your different reports. There's a Facebook group, strategy maps. I love those strategy maps, special reports, free bonuses. The free bonuses are really great because there is a way to figure out how to make 100K each year, what you have to do, how you have to price, what sales ranking you have to have. It's amazing. And I just showed you custom research. So now I'm going to show you the basics. Now I'm going to tell you this. If you have Office 360 for Microsoft, you can view it right online as if you were looking at it in Excel. So I wanted to show you what that looked like online. So that's the Office 360 version, or home office, well, Microsoft, okay, because this is done in Microsoft Excel. If not, you're able to just open it up and you can still use it in here. I find that for my computer, I don't know if it's anybody else, I'm using a Mac, but I find that this gets to be a bit glitchy for me, so I always like to download it. And what you'd want to do is you can just go right here and you can download it and work offline. Now, there is a 25-minute walkthrough on how to use this data, and he's going to show you how to look for data if you already know what genre you want to write, if you want to figure out what genre to write in, or if you want to confirm that where you're thinking the attention is flowing is accurate. It's a very good video that I encourage you to use if you've not used this before. But for sake of what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to be showing you how I drill down to figure out what's going on in the market using this. So I have downloaded this and I have opened it up in Excel, and you can see it right here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to clean up our data. And when you clean up the data, it's not going to be hard. All you need to understand is you're going to embrace filters, and you're going to embrace understanding all the stuff about money. So the first thing that I want you to realize, don't look at all of this and say, oh my gosh, no, I cannot. What I want you to do is I want you to ignore. Yes, I said it. I want you to ignore the categories, the genres over here. What we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on getting our head around everything. So really quick, and I apologize for this being so small, but I when I try to scroll back and forth a lot, it really messes up stuff. So this is about as large as as large as I can get it without having to scroll over too much for you to see everything. Okay. So how this is set up, and I'm like I said, this is the quick version. The excuse me, the sections that you have over here are under the book market and the niche. This is going to be all to do about categories, and categories would be genres and subgenres. So the ID here that he has, you don't really have to worry about that. What we are going to be using is we're going to be eventually using the custom tab, and you do want to be mindful of your levels. So what you have here when you see the C's, each one of those C's represents a level. So if you're doing basic, you're only going to have access to one level, which is going to be the top levels that you have in Amazon. Before I go on, let me just say that this data pulls back everything in Amazon Kindle. It is K-Lytics, Kindle, not books, Kindle, Amazon Kindle. And so it's going to be those top, I think they're now up to 36. Don't quote me on that at the time of this recording, but it's going to pull back all of those primary categories. Then the next C is going to put you into what we would call the premium level, where you get the category beneath that. And then the next C is going to put you in the elite level, the one I'm looking at. This is the elite level, where you get the category under that. So this would be the category, this would be the subcategory, and this would be the subcategory. Now let me click on that and show you up here. If you ever want to figure out where you are with regards to your categories in Amazon, because you can use this to map yourself back to Amazon to look at this. They are separated by hyphens. So arts and photography in this example is the top category, followed by the subcategory of architecture. You have another dash here, followed by architects A to Z. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, so now we're going to move to the next section, which is sales volume. And sales volume is going to be where we end up focusing a lot of our attention, along with competitive intensity, effort, and some others. But sales volume, what I want you to understand here is when you are looking at these four tabs, what they simply mean is that you're going to be looking at sales rank for the top 20 titles in whatever category that is for this column. For the next column, you're going to get an estimated sales per day for those top 20 titles. Then the second part of this section of sales volume is going to deal with the rankings for the number one bestseller. So the first two are about the top 20, and the next two are about the bestseller. And so you want to have that so that you can figure out what the top person is doing in this particular category as opposed to what is the average, because if you have this information, you're going to be able to see how far apart the 20th person is to the top person, and that's going to help you to understand if this is viable for you. But not even that. You don't even have to work that hard, because this data gives you way more than that. Okay, so then you have volume growth, which is going to be the percentage of the rise or fall or drop of those top 20 titles by sales rank month over month. Okay. Then price realization. Now, this is where I believe we start to get into the magic of K-Lytics data, because this is giving you a snapshot that you don't get from other information. And remember, this is a culmination of a month. And so you're not getting just what happened on that one day. You're getting a month's worth of data, which gives you a more accurate picture. So in price realization, this column here is the price of the average price of the top 20 titles. The next column is going to be the lowest price among the top 20 titles. And I'm going to just be honest with you. Traditionally, in this column, you're not going to see anything above 99 cents unless you're in some type of obscure, esoteric, or technical driven type of category. So for instance, you see the lowest here at 299. If you go over, that's let me take you back up here. That's what we expect. This arts and photography, architecture, drawing, and modeling. And as you can tell, this covers the nonfiction as well as fiction. Everything in Kindle. So therefore you have it. Okay. So the next section here for price realization is going to be the price change of the top 20. This is going to be very relevant to us because we want to make sure that we are in the upward slope, not the downward slope. We don't want to be part of the Me Too's. We don't want to be part of the mass entrance of a lot of people where there's going to be a lot of competition. So speaking of competition, what we have here is what is called competitive intensity. Do not let this throw you. What this simply means is he takes the data that K-Lytics gives you, that Alex and his team gives you. They take the number of titles that live in that category or subcategory. Then they take the change in the number of titles in the prior month. And based on that, they give you a percentage. And the percentage, if it's positive, that means that we have more titles this month than last month. If it's negative, it means that less titles were produced than the previous month. And then page length. Now, page length is good to know, but I will say this. As a practical user, do not take this as literal. This is an average, aggregate, if you will, of all the titles. So a lot of times you're going to have skewed numbers that are going to be inflated because, especially if you're going to be writing in the popular fiction areas that I'm going to be talking about today, especially if you're going to be competing with a lot of people who will take a short story and then put all this bonus material in there where it ends up being 900 pages. Yes, that is real, people. You will have a book that's 100 pages, but then they put in all these other free books. They like create a library, and whenever they publish this, a new book, that whole library goes in there to beef up the numbers, and so it will skew. So take this with a grain of salt. Because this is what is called effort. How many pages do I need to write to be realistic in here? Okay, so then we're going to get into the strategy. The strategy map is based on categories that he has. And I'm going to show you those real quick because this is actually where we're going to start. So now that I've taken you through all this section, let's get started and let's do this, okay? So when you click on this, if you're in Excel, when you click on those little down arrows, this is where you're going to start to be able to filter. And when you're able to filter, you're going to see everything that is in that column. All right, so right now, everything is selected. Let me quickly go through these and then tell you which ones we're going to focus on. All right, so the way the categories are set up in K-Lytics, they're set up to let you know what's going to sell and what's not going to sell, or what is selling, but what is a better opportunity to sell. So the beaten track mainstream, that is Hunger Games area. That is where everybody is duking it out for the eyeballs of the general public. It is a large reading group. There is opportunity in it, but it's going to cost you a lot. You're going to be just another number. You become a commodity and when I talk about commodity, all I'm really saying is a commodity is where there's a whole bunch of stuff where there's really no differentiation. People are there to buy because of price. Everything to them is the same. So when you have the beaten track mainstream, what you're looking at is people who are there who are interested in books. They know their categories and they want to get what is going to be the best price or free or whatever. So we don't want to go in there. Then we have competitive bestseller. Now, competitive bestseller is a little better than beaten track mainstream, but competitive bestseller is going to be where the titans live. This is going to be where the well-established or the traditionally published backed authors and the machines, the marketing machines, the groups are going to live. So we don't want to be in there either. Then we have what I call the HOTS. We'll be focusing on those, but there are some that we're not going to focus on just yet. All right, because I'm going to teach you how to look at all the hots, but we'll focus on two of them and then we'll come back to another one. All right, so then we have the ones at the bottom that we are not going to be focused on at all either. We have the non-sellers, the slow sale, meaning that these things, the between the non-sellers and the slow sell and the slow niche, they're just taking up bandwidth and space. Non-sellers, they're just not selling. Slow sell and slow niche. These categories simply mean that they are in either an esoteric area or the demand is so low and the supply is so high that the average book living in these categories in these areas don't ever get to see the light of day to get in front of anyone. And then, of course, you got some blanks where they just weren't categorized. So what we're going to do is we're going to start whittling down. Remember, I told you we are going to whittle down everything so that we can see clearly what we have to work with. So again, we're only going to concentrate on what I call the hots. So you have hot sell, you have hot mainstream, and hot niche. Now, hot sell is going to be the honeypot. This is going to be where the most opportunity lives. And when I say the most opportunity, this is the secret sauce to why publishers and authors in the know make certain they keep their KLytics subscription up to date. Because this information is almost like shooting fish in a barrel for what's going to sell and where you can get the eyeballs for the least amount of marketing dollars. And so that is why we're going to look at these this way. All right. So now that I have picked hot sale, like I said, this is the greatest opportunity to write in. I'm going to follow that up with hot niche. Hot niche are usually going to be a little more established, and they're just not as good as the hot sale, but they are really hot. So out of all of these categories, for our purposes of being able to get into a genre where it is going to work for us with minimal effort, where it is rare air and there is not a lot of competition, hot sell is number one. Hot niche is number two. And then we have hot mainstream. Hot mainstream is going to be where people are going to buy. They're going to buy. But I'm going to tell you, you're going to end up spending more for marketing dollars. You're going to have a bigger backlist. There's going to have to be a lot of stuff going on when you start moving into hot mainstream. So I'll tell you the hierarchy. Hot sale is number one. Hot niche is number two. Hot mainstream is number three. Followed by that is competitive bestseller at number four, beaten track mainstream at number five, and then you have slow sell at number six, slow niche at number seven, followed by non-seller and blanks. Okay? So the next thing we want to do is, now that we have picked what we're going to be looking at, we want to now tell it that we want it to descend, meaning we want the best ones at the top, followed by going down to least attractive. So I've clicked on descending and I have said that I want the hot sale and the hot niche ones. Okay. So all I have to do is click out of that. And I forgot to do this, but we started out with 3,016 records found in this report. We're down to 330. So we're down to just a little over 10% of all of the data. That lets you know that 90% of what's for sale on Amazon in the Kindle market is stuff that we should not be concerned with. All right. So I hope you understand that. So let's move on. So now that I have started working with whittling down the sheer volume to get to the records that I am very interested in, what I'm then going to do is I'm then going to go and work with the numbers. Now, if you've noticed, I have not gone over to take another look at the genres. I do not care about the genres. I care about what is going to be the honeypot and the honey hole of where I can get in to get these short reads done and be able to make a quick profit. So sales volume. We're going to come into sales volume. Remember, the first two have to do with the top 20 in a category, followed by the best sellers in a category. So in order to do this, what I want is I want to go in and figure out what I want my top 20 to be. So for my top 20, I want to have where in a given day or rank or whatever. I want to have my returns where they come back that in a given day they are selling at least 50 books a day or greater. Okay? So greater than or equal to 50. I'm going to start there. Depending on how many records I get back, I can either increase or decrease, but that's where I'm going to start. Okay? And I'm going to keep it descending because I want to have the top ones at the top, followed all the way down to the least attractive. Okay? So I've done that. The next thing I want to do is I now want to come over to competitive intensity. Oh, excuse me. I want to come back over to strategy map. I apologize. So in the strategy map, right next to the clusters of how K-Lytics tells you which ones are going to be the most attractive, they have something here that I think is phenomenally brilliant, and that is, excuse me, they have a sales to competition ratio. What that is if you're familiar with marketing, the micro marketing or microeconomics of it would be supply and demand. And I'm going to pretend like you've never heard of this, and I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. And that is, the more demand you have for a thing, the more you can demand for how much they're willing to pay. The more supply you have of a thing, the more you have to lower your price if the demand is low. So what that really means is if you've got something that everybody wants and you only have a little bit of it, people are going to be willing to pay more. If you have a lot of what only a few people want, then you're almost going to have to give it away. And so that is part of what is going on with this sales to competition ratio. So with that being said, he has it right here so that you'll know. This is sales per day times 1,000 divided by the number of titles. So the number of titles. So that lets you know. So what we're doing is we're looking at this, and these numbers are kind of like based on a percentage. And so what I want is I want to have a greater than or equal to, again, I'm going to put it at about 25. Now I will say anything over 45 is really good, because that means that you're getting into the rare air space of demand, and it's going to sell. They're just hungry for it, So those are some of the great things. So I'm going to put it at 25 because I really want to look at opportunity, because 25 still gets me in the room where the stuff is happening. Okay, and I'm also do that as descending. Okay, so we got that. Let's click out of there and let it do its work. Excuse me. Okay, and so let's see here. So the next thing I want to do is I want to start cleaning up everything based on my opportunities. So I'm going to recap. What I did is I only chose the hot niche and the hot sell return so that I could see what is the stuff that is going to be the best opportunity for me to write in. Then I looked at sales volume and I said I only want to get those categories that live in the top 20 where the average is at least 50 books sold per day. Then I looked at the competition and I wanted it to come back with no less than 25%. So, meaning that it is going to be a positive. It's going to really have enough people with enough demand willing to buy my books. All right, so now that I've got that, I want you to notice that we've taken those 330 records we had before and whittled them down to 75. So 75 records is way better dealing with than 330. But I'm still not ready to just go with 75. I want it to be really obvious. So I'm going to click back on my competition and I'm going to up that number, to 30. That brings it down to 54. And I'm going to go over to my sales rank of the top 20. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's see here. I'm going to make it I'm trying to think here. Let me take a moment. Let me take a pause. And oh, I'm sorry. I did the wrong one. That's what it is. You guys, I tell you. Let me clear this filter here. Now that's going to bring my numbers back up for a minute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the number of sales per day. That's sales rank. I wanted the number of sales per day. So I apologize. So let me, it didn't actually, it's funny, I cleared it out and it didn't do anything. So let me do greater than or equal to, let's do 50. And let's make sure that's descending. Okay, there you go. There we go. Oh, I apologize, you guys. I went here to the sales rank instead of the number of sales. So what I want is I want the sales rank. Now you can tell when you have a filter on, when you see the little down arrow and it looks like a T instead of just a down arrow. So that lets me know that I took the filter off of this one. I put it on the right one. And then here. Okay, so I'm going to quickly recap because I want you guys to make sure you get this. I don't want you to misunderstand what's happening here because this is easy. We got this, okay? All right, so what I did was I chose hot sell and hot niche. Remember, hot sell are the honey holes. Those are the greatest opportunities. And then hot niche. So we're already only working with the genres and categories that are going to be the most attractive for us. Then what I did was I said, I want you to only show me those hot niche and hot categories that have enough activity in them for me to make money. So that meant that I wanted it to bring me back sales that the top 20 sold at least 50. Now, if I wanted to whittle this down more, I could bring that number up to 100 sales a day. So say, for instance, you want to be in the top 20 where you're making 100 sales a day. You can do that. You can whittle it down even more. So I think if I probably whittle that down, I'll probably get it into the teens. Let's try that. Let's say the average one in the top 20 has to be selling 100 a day. Yeah, so that brought it down, not the teens, but it brought it down to 23. So out of 3,016 total files that were brought in out of this report out of Amazon, we first got it down to 330, then we got it down to 75, then we got it down to 32, and now we're down to 23 records. 23 records is way easier to handle than 3,000. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to read this data now that we have it, because we have got some really good stuff here. So we know that everything that has been pulled back is going to sell. We also know that it is going to sell because there is enough demand for it. There is enough sales to competition ratio. And that sales to competition ratio, what I didn't talk about here is the competitive intensity. So it's now time to talk about that. What you want to do is you want to know how many titles are in that category. And the reason why you want to know that is because this is predicated on how many, and he tells you right here, how many sales per day times 1,000 divided by the number of titles. And that lets you know the saturation, that lets you know the demand, that lets you know what is going to sell, what is going to be attractive, and what is going to have the audience, the attention, the eyeballs for that. Okay, so just because you have a lot of titles does not necessarily mean that it's going to be bad, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be necessarily good. So that's why I wanted to help you understand that. All right, so let's look at these. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now, after I've done all of that, I'm now going to start paying attention to my genres. And for the sake of this, it's only 23 of them, so I'm going to tell you what they are. Okay, so the first thing you're going to notice is that I have everything based on how many sales per day you get in the top 20, followed by your sales to competition ratio, followed by what cluster they're in. So if I wanted to only see the hot sale, I could do that. If I only wanted to see a sales to competition ratio over 50, I can do that. If I only wanted to see a number of titles below 5,000, I could do that. But for the sake of this, we've got 21, 23. These are the 20, at this current time, these are the 23 top opportunities in Amazon. Okay, so I mean, how much better does it get than this? This is why I sing the praises of K-Lytics, especially the elite level. And as you'll notice, everything that was brought back is on the elite level. Now, if you're using premium, you don't have this information because it's only going to take you up to the second one. So everything that was returned came back on the elite level. That's another reason why I say it, should be elite. So what I'm going to do is I'm scrolling through all 23, and another good thing about it is if you'll notice, he starts to use color coding, and you'll see here that in the competitive intensity, the program has highlighted literature and fiction classics women's because it's only got 1129, and it is a hot sale. And it's also the same thing, literature and fiction, women's fiction, classics again. Okay, same thing. So this is really the same record. So what I want to do is, I'm cool with that, but I do want you to understand that this is a classic, and classics, they're old. What you could possibly do is you could take advantage of the data that's coming back and do a retelling, a derivative, like zombie Pride and Prejudice, or something like that. If you're into the classics, you can take that, do a derivative, a spin on it, or something like that. But for the sake of what we're looking at, I'm not going to be publishing anything that's a classic. I'm not trying to do public domain stuff. So I'm really kind of going to ignore that, even though it is coming up as hot sale, hot opportunity, but there are only so many classics. So that is another reason why the number of titles is so low, and it's such a great opportunity because the classics are perennial. They're always going to sell. There is another opportunity, which is also a hot sale down here at the bottom, 23. Now, believe it or not, any and everything that we've pulled back, we can work with because we've already qualified that this is the creme de la creme of what we want. So this one pulled back mystery, thriller, and suspense, mystery, and in a series. Okay, and so what it's telling me here is that on average, if you live in the top 20 of this sales rank, you sell on average 163 titles per day. Your sales rank is about 522, and the best seller sits at 700 titles per day, and they are sitting at a sales rank of 82, which means they're in the top 100, which lets you know that this is a really awesome category to get into. So you've got mystery, thriller, suspense, mystery, and you do it as a series, okay? And it also says that there are only 1267 titles. And the change in the number of titles versus the prior month is less than 2%. So it's wide open. That is another reason why the competition ratio is so awesome. Now, it does say that the average number is 349 pages, but I'm probably willing to bet that this is either bundles, it could be compilations, anthologies included in the series. And what you'll do is, if you're interested in writing in that, you will go and look at it. All you have to do is pull that up and go back over to Amazon, look for mystery, thriller, and suspense, look for mystery, and then go down a series. Trust me, if it's coming up here, it's coming up in Amazon because this stuff is culled directly from there. And it is listed as a hot sale. So this is a honey hole. All right. So the top category is MTS. The subcategory is mystery. And then the subcategory is a series. Okay. So now what I like to do is after I've gone and seen what it's pulling back, I then start looking at what I'm interested in writing. And that's where this is going to differ for me from you. So all I do is I go and I look and see what is going to be pretty cool that I would be interested in writing. So right off the bat, I am seeing things that I'm very interested in. Now remember I told you we were going to be using this custom column here. That's what we're going to do. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to just be putting X's by the categories that we are interested in, because I'm going to show you how to bring this down even further. Okay. So I'm liking all of this. And yeah, this too. Okay, so now that I have some of these chosen, I'm going to continue to choose a few more of them. But I want you to take note of something, and that is literature and fiction. The top category, literature and fiction, is your top category. Then you have literary fiction, women's fiction. Now that one's pretty cool. That one is going to be, and the thing is about women's fiction as opposed to romance is the story and the expectation of the genre is that this is about a transformation, an evolution, or a transcendence of something that happens in the woman's life. Okay. And so with that, it is about her. It is not about her romance. You can have romance in there, but romance is not the top thing. You have a woman that can be seriously in a deep romance, but it is really about her. Okay? Her evolution, her life. All right, I'm going to uncheck that one since I have so many women's fiction stuff going on. And I'm going to continue to look at, and plus the literary thing. I'm not really a literary writer. I am a popular genre fiction writer. So I'm going to back off of that one. I see one that I'm really interested in here. And let's see here. And like I said before, all I'm doing is going through and reading the ones that I have an interest in. Yours could be different. Will you say, well, what if you don't see ones that you like? Well, then you go back and you change your filters. So instead of being only wanting 100 sales per day, maybe you drop it. Maybe you increase it to 200 to see what comes back. Instead of keeping the competition ratio high at 30, you drop it back down to 25. There are things that you can do to make sure that you do that. I would say try to find something in the hot niche and hot sale areas first, but if you can't, it's okay. All right. So let's see here. We've got some more I am looking at. Now, I'm going to say right now, science fiction, if you'll notice, just like I said before, romance, women's fiction, mystery, science fiction, those are all going to be hot areas for writing short. What you notice you don't see here is you don't see the fringe writing that has a lot of movement, like erotica and things like that. And the reason why you don't see that is because it is not mainstream. It is going to be very particular. But the thing is even with those, if you can find that people are getting good enough sales rankings in those top 20, then you can still write in them. But you've got to come with it, and you've got to do what you can to get in that top 20. That's the thing. So it can't be where you want to write in an area and there are really only titans in there and then everybody else does not get any of the lion's share. That would be a guppy in a Shark Tank. Don't do that. All right, so let me pick a few more. I don't write historical or classics. No classics. I don't really write teen and young adult. I'm not interested in that. I do write in science fiction. So look at what we have here. We have got a whole bunch of science fiction. We got science fiction, fantasy, coming of age. Think Ender's Game, Ready Player One, those types. And those also cross over into lit RPG a little bit. Then we've got science fiction, fantasy, new adult, and college. We've got science fiction, fantasy, science fiction, Galactic Empire, space exploration, and then action and adventure. I like action and adventure. And okay, so we have that. So now what I'm going to do, now that I've picked the ones that I'm interested in taking a deeper look into, oh, I can do this one too. Let me do this one. I am going to now declutter. So I'm going to filter this, and I'm only going to pick the ones that I just chose. And so that's all I did is I says, give me back the ones that I put X's by. So I have 7. Out of all of that stuff, I now have 7. And that is what I'm talking about when I talk about how to whittle down and be able to hit fish in the barrel, because I already know all this stuff is going to work based on what I have, but I am going to show you how you can look at it to know and get your mind around what you have to do. So, looking at this, now I start to look at themes, because I'm not going to just take this at face value that I have to write in women's fiction, action, and adventure. I have to write in women's fiction, fantasy. I have to write in women's fiction, humor. No, what I want to look at is I want to look at the fact that based on what it's showing me, women's fiction is ruling the day right now, followed by romance, which has paranormal angels, followed by teen young adult literature, action adventure. I probably will take that one out because I don't really write in that. So let me tell it to filter again. Okay. All right, so what I ended up with out of all of that I chose, remember we picked 23 and I chose these. So you could choose other stuff that you might be interested. You can change your parameters, but this is what I chose. I ended up with a lot of women's fiction stuff, and I ended up with action adventure, fantasy, humor, new adult and college, psychological, paranormal angels. Okay? Because I want to be able to write in something that I know is going to work and in areas that I like. So, before I even go over to Amazon, I can look at the numbers now, and I know that if I decide that I want to do something that is going to be um, a woman, strong woman, thrust into action adventure, I can make it romance where paranormal, I already have an idea of something I could possibly do. I could possibly make it paranormal, dealing with angels, and the psychological with some adventure, fantasy, and humor, and get all of that in there. I could even take out, I could even take in the account that she needs to be young. She needs to be below the age of 25 to include the young adult, the new adult crowd. And because I have this now, I know before, like I said, going over to Amazon, what I can do. Now, I know that this has gotten a little long, but I wanted to take you through the process so that you can see in real time how you can come up with this. So let's look at the sales volume, the numbers, and all of that, and show you just how good of a standing you're in. Now, none of these came back as hot sale, and that's okay. But they are still hot niche. And look at this beautifulness here. Look at this sales to competition ratio. It is wide open. It is so wide open that I basically don't have any competition. Look how low the change in inventory, if you will, the number of titles is month over month. The highest one is under 3%, and that was women's fiction fantasy. I mean, amazing, amazing. Now, the page links do border on the higher number. That does not deter me, because that is not a true effort. Because I'd be willing to bet you 9 times out of 10, this is either probably an anthology, a series, or it is the new trend that I've been seeing where people will do a short and then put in a lot of bonus books to beef it up. And we can kind of test that out. I'll do another video to test that out and show you how that looks. But I wanted to make sure that you saw how publishers and best-selling authors like myself are using this type of data to circumvent all of that foolishness of spending all that time in Amazon trying to figure out what is going on. Right now, I have 6 opportunities that I can go to and gather data directly for the niches and the sub genres that I want to write in. And like I said before, I'm going to mix these because I know they're going to work. I can tell you, I'm going to have a young adult. She's going to probably be around 23, 24, just out of college, just out of grad school or something like that. I might make her 24. She's going to It's going to be a fantasy paranormal dealing with some angels, some psychological stuff, and it's going to be full of adventure. And I'll take it from there. If I wanted to, I can throw her into an alternate reality, deal with a little bit of fantasy. I could even touch a little bit on lit RPG if I want to throw her into a world that becomes a game. There is so much that I can do with this. So let's look at our numbers because this is going to tell you the truth. So I know that I want to have a lot of humor, a lot of action, and I want it to have a strong female character who she can have her love interest, of course, but this story is really about her. And it will be a romance, but it will be about her transformation. She will be the star of the show. Okay? I also know that based on that, if I can get into the top 20, I'm sitting at an average of around 400. Now, if you notice the angel stuff, if it gets to be too much, I can leave that off because that one is the lowest one out of all of these. But as long as I can make it humorous with some adventure, some fantasy, make her young and a little psychological, I'm good to go. Um, and that'll keep me selling in the 400 book per day range if I can get into this. Now, this is the next thing. If you want to hit top 100, it should be about a woman uh, where you're focusing on the fact that she is new adult. So her situation needs to be something where it has a new adult expectation, meaning everything is new. She is now having to make decisions for herself. You can stress things in your plot or your story about her being on her own, her having to figure this out, not being able to rely on a support system or people tell her what to do or whatever it is. But it needs to have the expectations and the metaphor of new adult. And that metaphor is the awakening of self, the culmination and understanding of self identity or the birthing of self identity. So you need to make sure you play on those types of things because that is going to get you in the top 100. So this one, literature and fiction, women's fiction, new adult, and college, is sitting at an average in the top 20, not even the top one, then the average of the top 20 is sitting at 99. Now, I can play around with these other ones because if you're looking at the number one bestseller across these, when I start to see this, like 2020, that lets me know it's probably the same person. And that'll be good because I can go and find out who that is specifically, who's hitting the rankings like this. But if you notice, all of these, the top seller, the best seller, number one ranked, is in the low 100s. So even the romance paranormal angel, the top one is sitting at 66. So it's still viable to get into the top 100 if you really work for it. And then their estimated sales are up there. So if you're writing a women's fiction book with a plucky new adult, you're going to be selling over 1,000 books a day at sitting at number one. And if you're in the top 20, you're going to be selling around in the 400 range. I'll probably say go down to maybe 300 for the lower end, but yeah, easily in that. All right, so then the next thing is I want to look at my price realization. Now, this is another reason why I am stressing to do this for your short reads, because you want to be able to make sure that you know what you can realistically expect to charge. So that's another great thing about K-Lytics. It tells you, now this is the price of the top 20 titles average. And if you can see that they are a little lower, but that does tell me that I can probably definitely get away with $2.99 as my short read. And when I'm talking about a short read, I'm talking about something in the 10 to 30,000 word range. $2.99 to be able to do that. Maybe stick it in KU if you're a newer if you're a newer writer, to get people familiar with you and willing to give you a chance. If you're an established writer and you have people that buy from other places, go make it go wide. A lot of us established authors at this time right now, the pendulum is swinging away from KU. So I would probably test it. For me, I could probably get away with charging a little bit more because I have a backlist and I have loyal, established readers. But for you, test it out. Maybe you do the first one at 99 cents and then move them up to $2.99 and then maybe try $3.99. But test it. Your price elasticity, meaning what the market will pay you, is based individually on you, not anyone else. So I can't tell you specifically what to charge. I can just give you a ballpark of what the market is paying. So it looks like for these particular books, the sweet spot is going to be maybe around $2.99 to $3.99. And if you notice, all of them say 99 cents for the lowest because that is, of course, what happens. Okay, so with that being said, the price change here is another thing that you can take a look at. So the one that took the biggest hit was the fiction humor, women's fiction humor. It decreased by almost a quarter of a percent month over month, and that brought it down to $1.47 on average, which means that what I would probably think is I would look for anthologies. I would look for bundled sets that came in and sold a high volume at 99 cents, because that does not necessarily mean that you have to bring your book in at 99 cents. It just means that when you hop over to Amazon, you're going to need to look for those kinds of occurrences to see if that happened. Okay. All right, moving on. For your competitive intensity, we've already established that this is pretty good. To me, anything under 10,000 titles is pretty good. When you get into those low numbers, you're going to be starting to move down closer to hot sell, because it's going to be a higher opportunity. And if you notice, those lower numbers are going to give you those pops of great competitive intensity. Okay, so with that, if I'm just looking at numbers here, women's fiction fantasy is going to probably be the most attractive. And the reason why is because if you look at the numbers, if I'm in the top 20, my average sales rank is going to put me at 236. I can sell around 300 books. If I hit number one, I'm still going to be sitting at number 20 in all of Amazon and selling almost 1,600 copies. The sales price on this on average is $169, which tells me that I can get $2.99 with no problems. The price change, it went up 5%, which is pretty good. The competition is insane. It is awesome. And it has 770 pages on average. But like I said before, something tells me that is probably going to be because of maybe a book bundle, anthology, or some other kind of marketing ploy that is happening right now. Okay, so I have gone through all of this. I've shown you guys what is happening, and what we're going to do in the next video is I'm going to hop over to Amazon, show you a little bit of how you take this data and move it over to Amazon and what you need to look for. Okay, thank you so much. I apologize for this going a little longer, but you know more than the average author does now, who does not use this publisher level data. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.